G'day everyone, and welcome to our DIY bore pump install summary. In the last episode we shared how the bore well was drilled and how after going through the bedrock we finally found an abundant groundwater source. And in this video we'll be installing a 500 watt 4-inch submersible bore pump from TuHorse, sharing a simple solar panel mounting solution that we came up with using just some star pickets, some of the problems that you can run into if you're buying solar panels from eBay, and finally we'll be testing the solar panels with a voltmeter before connecting everything up and dropping the pump down the well. Once this MPPT light is flashing, it's working, but I think let's go on over to the pipe.
I can hear it. Can you hear it? Oh,
Water's coming.
Oh.
Woohoo!
Pretty clear. The wheelbarrow is dirty, that's why it looks dirty in the wheelbarrow.
Look at that!
Ah.
What's Rufus doing? Rufus, you're all covered in sand. Look how sandy you are. And even though everybody couldn't wait to get started on the pump install itself, unfortunately step 1 was tidying the site. The scope of mess depends on how deep and how wide you drill your bore, but because we needed to almost double the width of our bore well to drive in the steel casing, there was now a massive heap of sand to clean up. I guess it's hard to explain in a video what it's like to carry about 50 wheelbarrows of sand on a really hot, humid summer day, but let's just say I've never had chafing in my entire life until this day. Just so you know, it's very humid today.
Very, very humid. And we're not even halfway done and that pile is looking huge.
Free sand. Just a bit of an insight, today is what, like 30 something degrees? But it's not the heat, but the humidity that gets you.
Yeah.
Look at my hair, it looks like I've had a shower.
It actually does. I'm sweating. This is my first day on the shovel and let me tell you, it is hot.
Yeah, so it's one of those jobs where you have to kind of fall in love with suffering.
Yeah, and have plenty of water. I'm gonna go have a drink now because I'm thirsty.
Yeah, I think we're a bit over halfway through, but this is half a day's work already and we're just moving the sand.
Free workout.
Free workout. Let's get back to it. Alright guys, welcome back. We've got our site tidy and we're ready to begin the actual install now.
And believe it or not, this took a whole day for us to clean up.
Yeah, because the sand was spread out over a wide distance, it didn't look like much, but I reckon we carried about 50 wheelbarrows of it. It was insane. So this is the bore over here, and if you notice the black line, this is the direction that the solar panels will face, because over there is east where the sun rises, over there is west where the sun sets, and that's how we know that that's north, and that's where we want our solar panels to face. So let's get stuck into it.
And I'll show you the bore first. Nothing fancy, just a pipe sticking out of the ground. Let's get started.
Alright guys, let's start out by taking a look and unboxing the TuHorse bore pump. So for anyone who hasn't heard of TuHorse, it's got really good reviews online and we're pretty keen to find out if it's worth the hype. One of the coolest things is that this pump is probably worth less than half of what all the normal pumps are worth if you go to your standard irrigation store, and you get the same warranty, 2 years. So we're pretty keen to give this alternative a go, and from what I can see here it looks pretty good already. So let's check out the kit. So here we've got our plasma laser gun, Just kidding. It's a ball pump. So this is the ball pump here. It's pretty heavy, and the size that we got is 500 watts.
You can see that.
Going in at 48 volts. And we'll put on the screen exactly how many litres per minute it does, because it differs by height, as in the amount of head that you have to pump up. It changes how much water the pump's going to supply. And so, taking a quick look at the flow rate graph for our pump, it has the 500 watt and the 1000 watt models on here. If, as an example, our system has 30 meters of head, we can see that the 500 watt pump will put out about 31.7 litres per minute, and the 1000 watt pump will put out about 38.3 litres per minute. So in this instance, the difference is only about 7 litres per minute, which we definitely wouldn't want to spend an extra $1,000 on another kilowatt of solar panels for. But of course, if you're pumping to larger heights, then the more powerful pumps start to perform a lot better. And if you guys are new to flow rate and friction loss calculations, I put together a video all about this topic, and you can click the link on the screen now to check that out, or you can find the link in the video description too. But something that's crucial to understand for working with ball pumps is how to calculate the total head, which basically refers to the total height that you are pumping. And so total head is the difference between the top of the standing water level in your bore well and the location that you're pumping to. So we basically, in choosing the pump for us, we went for a happy medium because we could provide 500 watts for the pump, but that's already 4 panels over there. So we wanted a flow rate of basically just over 30 litres per minute, and that's what this pump's going to provide us with. So next up, we'll take a look at the cable that it comes with. So what you got here is a cable that's already been spliced and connected, which is really cool about this kit, because normally when you buy a pump, you just get the pump and then you got to splice the cable yourself, and this is a special heat shrink that's got glue in it or whatnot. So that's just something really cool about this kit, that you get it all in one piece and you don't have to do extra work. And you've got the little connectors here in the end as well. They go straight onto the controller box. So continuing on, we get a bag of goodies here.
What's in the bag of goodies?
So we can take a quick look at that. We get plumber's tape, bonus.
Nice.
So this here, I don't know why that looks like that. I'm sure it's meant to be this way, but this is the, I think it's called the helical rotor. Mm-hmm. And this thing spins, and that's how it pumps the water.
Oh.
By pushing it up like that. So that's nice that we get a spare one of these. This is one of the sensors. So normally these have a float inside them, which maybe this one doesn't work this way. Okay, so this is one of the sensors, and what this basically does is it sits just above the pump, and if the bore runs dry, it lets the system know not to pump so that you don't run the pump dry. Next up, we've got some solar cable with MC4 connectors. And here we've got another sensor. So this one's got a very long cable. That tells us that this is the sensor for the actual pump. Whereas this one had the shorter cable. So this one would be for your water tank, to tell the system when the water tank's full. It basically stops pumping. So we're not going to use that, but we are going to use this one. And this sensor, to prevent the system from running dry, is very, very important, because if you run out of water in your bore and the pump keeps spinning, well, you basically stuff up your pump. So we've got some instructions in there as well. We'll take a look at them behind the scenes to figure out what we're doing.
What's in this box?
Next up, we've got a mystery box. Taking a look inside the mystery box.
It's Christmas.
It's Christmas for Off-Grid City couple.
Oh, is this the control box?
This is the control box.
Very cool.
Looks pretty fancy.
Yeah.
It looks very protected from the elements, which is nice. And yeah, looks like this is how we're going to connect our power through these MC4 connectors here. Alright, next up, let's take a look at some of the other tools and components that we're going to need to make everything work. So we've got a pretty long tape here to measure the right amount of poly pipe before we put the pipe down the well. This is probably the main component to show you guys. So this is a bore cap here. It's by Croak Industries. It's got a toad on it. It's really cool.
That's why we picked it.
So in essence, the pump is going to be put into the bore, and then it's going to pump water up the poly pipe, and then it joins to the junction like so. It comes into this connector here, and then there's an elbow, and then it goes out to a water tank that we're going to have set up for this. So we've also got some cabling, some extra cabling in case we need to bridge any of the gaps with the solar panels when connecting those. We've got spare MC4 connectors, and these are the Y branch connectors, so they're going to connect 2 wires into one basically. And some of the other stuff that we have is more MC4 connectors. We've got bolts, nuts and washers for connecting the solar panels onto the framework that we're doing. And the way we're doing that is with star pickets. So we're just going to try out something alternative because we've got a very limited budget right now and we don't have the money to buy one of those fancy solar panel stands. So once again, trying something alternative. We'll all see how it goes once we set it up. These things are pretty cool. They're little grips. And what that's for is the stainless steel rope. Obviously this is something that you can't do this job without. It's not the poly pipe that holds the weight of the pump. It's actually the stainless steel rope. So in case something goes wrong, in case the wire gets damaged or the poly pipe rips off or whatever, this is going to hold it forever basically. So a multimeter here we've got because we're going to be testing the solar panels. We're not just going to hook them up willy-nilly. We're going to find out if they're working properly before hooking them up to the system. And then we've got some tools to strip wiring to crimp the MC4 connectors together. And this duct tape is going to be what supports everything together. So the cable, the wire, the poly pipe, it's all going to be tied together at intersections of about 1 meter long so that it's all going into the bore in one piece. Basically here, tools for screwing things on. More MC4 connectors. And then there's other things like conduit. You don't want to have exposed wires if they're running from the bore pump itself to the solar panels. We're going to have them covered up with a conduit. We've got a picket driver in there to knock the pickets in. We've got a hammer for micro adjustments.
Spray paint.
Yep, spray paint. If we end up bending the pickets or basically peeling the paint off them, we're gonna give it a bit of a touch up so it doesn't rust. And we've got other power tools in there like drills and a grinder to cut things, and we've got a heat gun because a heat gun is really helpful for getting poly pipe nice and snug and connected really well to the fittings. So let's go ahead and get started on setting up the solar panels. Alright guys, next up we'll take a look at the solar panels that we got. So these are made by Moby Outdoor. So these are actually a solar panel that we got from eBay because oftentimes they are made in the same factory, as you may have heard, and you can get pretty good deals on eBay. But I have something really important to share with you if you want to buy solar panels from eBay. And that is, a lot of the time, because basically sellers can't be persecuted for giving you wrong power ratings, what they do is sometimes they give you a higher power rating than what the solar panel can actually provide. And I've actually seen a lot of the times sellers double the power rating that the solar panel is actually capable of. So the way to check this, you can get a pretty good solar panel off eBay, but you just have to be mindful that that power rating that they're giving you might be exaggerated. So basically, the sure way to tell is to know the surface area of the solar panel, because 1 square meter gives you about 200 watts. So if they're saying the solar panel is 400 watts and it's only 1 square meter in its surface area, that's misleading, and it might still be a good price. So you might still want to buy it knowing that it's a 200 watt solar panel. And that's because per square meter of any surface that has sun shining on it, the sun gives off 1,000 watts of power. Basically, if you measure 100% of the energy that the sun emits on a surface, that's 1,000 watts. And if you've seen solar panel efficiency ratings listed as something around 23%, that's basically a factor of that 1,000 watts that's hitting the panel. If it's 20% efficient, you get 200 watts out of that 1,000. So that's how that works. That's a tip that's going to do you guys really good. And next up, let's take a look at this solar panel, and I actually have something to show you about this one, because we ordered it from eBay, and this was actually one of the rare sellers that I found that listed their panels accurately. So these were advertised as 250 watts each, and the surface area was over 1 square meter. So I basically calculated the surface area, and I concluded that yes, this seller did list their solar panels accurately in terms of their power output. But something that was a little bit disappointing when we actually got the panels out was when I measured it, it was supposed to be 1.5 meters long, but I don't know how well you can see that. These are only 107 centimeters long, and they are 82 centimeters wide. So it's a bit silly of us that we didn't check this as soon as we got these from the post office. But actually what's ended up happening is that we got solar panels that are basically 1.5 times smaller than what we needed to have, and that's just some places where you can get caught out. I looked at the seller's description and I saw that the listing was accurate in terms of what was said on the page, but unfortunately with the panels, they've sent us ones that are too small. Now, I don't know if that's intentional or not, but just if I can share something with you guys, be very, very mindful of that. If you're ordering something off eBay, just make sure to double check everything, so that the moment that you see that there's a mistake, you can jump onto it and sort it out quick. So what we're doing with these panels is I've basically deduced that they're about 175 watts each, not 250. So I've asked the seller to just send us 2 more so that we can up our solar array to that 1 kilowatt that we're aiming for. Alright guys, I'll take you real quick through the framing that we're setting up to hold the solar panels in place. You might notice already that you don't see one of those fancy steel poles with the mounting rails on them, and that's simply because this time around we're working on a budget and we just have to make this work with what we have. And what we've got is star pickets, and those fancy mounting rails and posts, they cost over $1,000. So we've got less than $100 of pickets here, and it's turning out pretty good. So let me show you around and show you how it's working out to be. And so if we take a look at the finished product, you can hardly tell that it's built on a cheap. So
Looks pretty good to me.
it's actually turning out better than I thought. And it's very simple to do. It's a bit finicky getting the pickets in the right spots and not getting them to twist. But yeah, basically we drilled a hole in the solar panel and we put a little bolt through. And the holes are already pre-drilled in the pickets, so that's easy. All I had to do was cut this part off so that we only have the bit left that's in line with the solar panel. And just to keep the straight line going, all we're doing is we've got a plank and we line it up like so with the last pickets to ensure that we're doing it in a straight line. And once we start knocking in that picket, we simply make sure that
It's all level.
it's all nice and level. Very simple, just to hold the solar panels in place. So let's get on with it. So we've got 82 centimeters.
Perfect.
Got the width.
Got the plank there to make sure it's straight.
And it's not a precision contest here. It's, once again, it's a very simple structure, so we don't need to have it crazy perfect because pickets are flexible, so you can always pull them back and forth a little bit to line it up.
And so the placement of the picket has to be with the holes pointing forward as well. That's really important.
Sometimes while you're knocking them in, they twist. You know, they start twisting like that. Just have to be mindful of that. And look at the bubble.
Not quite there.
Needs another hit. Perfect. And for anybody wondering how we got the panels at a 30-degree angle to the sun, this was done by using this intricate methodology here of "she'll be right, mate." Alrighty, so we've got our solar panels set up and ready to connect, but first up, let's test them to see if they all work. So we've got our multimeter here, and we're going to start by doing the voltage. If you've got this model of multimeter, don't forget when you first select the voltage, it's in AC, and we need to press the select button to make it DC, because solar panels work from DC. And we've got the red bit here connected to the voltage. When we're doing the current later on, we've got to not forget to transfer this into the current measuring section. So I normally connect the negative first and then the positive, simply because it makes less of a spark. So we've got 22.5 volts, which is pretty much what the label says that the open circuit voltage is. So that's a success. Now let's check the current that this panel provides. And just for context, right now is about maybe 11 AM, so we should be getting 80% of this panel's capacity, I would say, if not more. So once again, we've got the red anode, whatever this thing's called, connected to the amperage section, and we've selected the amperage reading there, not forgetting to change into DC. And all that we do is the same thing. Got the negative already connected, now we've got the positive, and we're getting about 8.1 amps, which is to be expected. Funny enough, when you look at the label on the back, it says that it can provide something like 19 amps. That's not true, that's misleading.
Everything on the back is double.
Yeah, this basically just goes to confirm what I was saying about the surface area. Now we've done a real life measurement and both match up. So 8.9, 8.5 amps is probably the maximum that you can get from this. Maybe when the sun's perfect and it's a cool day and the panels are working more efficiently when they're cool, you could probably get 9 amps out of them, but you definitely can't get 19. So this panel looks good. Now we're going to test the rest, and if we're happy with all the readings, we're going to hook it all up and go to the next stage. Alright, so we've got the system all set up and we've connected everything in series just because we've only got 4 panels, which is less than 80 volts, and the charge controller can take 100 volts. So this is the simplest way that we've thought to do it for now. We didn't have to do any new connections. We've basically got plus to minus, plus to minus. As you can see, all the panels are connected to each other like so. And then from the start of the array, we've got 1 wire, which is the minus. And from all the way over here, we've got the plus. So we've got the charge controller or the pump control box hooked up and ready to go. So this little switch here on the 2-horse pump, that's how you turn it to solar. It's got a SOL there. And so this over here is the speed. I don't know whether you guys can see that. This is the speed and this is the timer. What the timer does is if there is insufficient electricity or if there's overcurrent, if you've got too much power, what this does is you can set the timer from 0 to 30 minutes. So it essentially waits 5 minutes and then tries again, or it can wait 30 minutes and then try again. And the speed, that's kind of self-explanatory. You got from 0 to 10 and you can adjust it with this dial here. And basically when we turn it on like so, it's a bit overcast. So we'll see how we go if we've got enough current at the moment to run everything. So when you first turn it on, it does the checks.
Oh, I can hear the water.
Oh yeah, it's got the pump button that just lit up.
Let's go have a look. Amazing.
Yep.
Okay, yep.
So a really cool thing about this pump is it starts up really slowly, as you may have heard. So the revs are slowly going up. It's working. And if you look at the sky, it's overcast.
Very.
So because it's overcast and we're a little bit undersized with our solar array, I think that once we have the pump 30 meters down, that's going to need more force to push the water up 30 meters, and then it might struggle in these light conditions. But based on how well it's performing now in low light, I think when the sun's fully out, even with the 4 panels instead of the 6 that we now require, we're going to be okay. Okay, so now we've got part 2 of the testing. We're going to have a look to see if the little sensor that we got that tests if the bore has run dry, if that works. So we've connected the little sensor here. There's the COM1 and the WH ports here, and this is not polarity specific, so it doesn't matter where you put the plus and the minus, where you put the blue and the brown basically. So let's turn the pump on again. We've got all the check lights on and we've got our timer as 0. What this does is basically if the water's too low, it's going to stop pumping, and then when I put the sensor back in, it's going to start pumping again. So it sounds like the pump's getting started. Let's take a look at that.
Yep.
And by the way, it's like 4 o'clock now. We've got afternoon sun. So here's the sensor.
And then you take it out of the water.
It stops slowly.
So now it's got a red light to indicate that it's running dry.
Now what does it say on that red light?
Well, L?
Well low.
Yeah.
So now, because we've got that timer as 0, we're going to plop the sensor back in. And what that means is that basically as soon as it's done doing the checks, it's going to start up again. But with that timer function, if you want to give your well some time to fill up, you can wait up to 30 minutes to allow the water level to come back up. So here you can see it's getting started up again. Yeah. So we're we're ready now to put the pump in the bore and start enjoying a nice water supply. Alright, so let's begin the install of the bore pump, and we're going to start off with some plumbing work. So we're going to connect the poly pipe to the pump, and then we're going to align the wires and everything with that as we go. So first up, we've got some plumber's tape, and we're going to apply it to all the threads, making sure that we do it nice and tight. Alright, so component number one is a reducing nipple, because the outlet on the pump is a 1-inch outlet and we're going to be using 1.5-inch poly pipe. Why, you might be wondering? Just to minimize friction loss in the plumbing. Now the ideal size is probably 1.25 inch, and blue line poly is the best one to use for these applications, because blue line poly is able to handle more pressure. But there's a lot of farmers out there who use green line, and we just have hundreds of meters of it, so we're going to use it because we're not perfect. But if you guys are starting from scratch, just get the blue line, and 1.25 inch will have the perfect amount of size to resistance ratio. So this is overkill, but we really want to maximize the performance of the pump and to have as little resistance as possible in the plumbing. So we're using 1.5-inch pipe. So now we're putting the reducing nipple on like so. Then we're going to use some multi-grips to tighten it up. So now we've got the reducing nipple on with the tape, and it's time to put in the poly pipe end connector now. Okay, now we've got our Philmac poly pipe fittings going on. So the end cap goes on first, then this thingamabob, and then the barb. Of course, when you're using blue line fittings, they're a little bit different. Pretty much the same though. But one thing we will do is, just to help it grip and take shape of all these barbs, and for this connector here, it's also got little barbs inside of there. So what people in the forums have mentioned is just to use a heat gun. And this is a type of thermoplastic, which means it becomes soft when it's heated, but then once it cools down, it pretty much regains its original chemistry. So we're just gonna help this out a little bit, make it nice and hot, and all of our fittings will be nice and snug after we put them on. The added benefit is that you don't have to hammer this in now. It slides in.
A lot easier.
A lot easier. But maybe we'll need the rubber mallet just to get it the last way.
Bob's your uncle.
Okay. And it's a very hot day as well, so that helps. The sun being on the poly pipe, it helps to have it straighten itself out as it's laying down. But basically the O-ring there is what creates the seal, so you don't need to apply plumber's tape anywhere here on this thread, because the O-ring does the sealing action. So that's going in now. And when working with poly pipe fittings, these oil filter pliers are really indispensable. I try to avoid using these wherever I can, because the teeth are pretty rough, so they can, you know, take some chunks out of plastic. But the main thing is, if you notice, these are flat. The grips are actually, the surface here is flat, and that's no good for circle fittings. You can get rounded one of these, as we found out recently, which is cool, but these are also just as good. So because these are round, they're going to grab the round fitting, and they're basically not going to take the round fitting and make an oval out of it. They're going to keep it round, and that's important, because if you start squishing it, it's harder to tighten, and it's not good for the fittings. So next up, we've got this 40 meters of cable, and we're just going to stretch it all the way down there along the poly pipe. Sarah's a lot better at not tangling cables compared to me. So off she goes, descending into the bush, unrolling these 40 meters of cable. Alright, so now we're attaching the bore water level sensor to the assembly. We've got our instructions here, and I just noticed that it says this is a serious solar pump. Maybe it means these series, but I'll take it as serious. I reckon this is a pretty serious product from working with it so far. And we found here water level sensor in the water source. So the instructions are kind of minimal, by the way. If you're installing this, there's no pictures or little diagrams or anything like that, so it's good to watch YouTube videos like this one. That'll be pretty helpful. But what it does say is that we need to be 0.5 meters above the pump inlet. So we know from our testing earlier that this is the inlet here. This is where the water gets sucked into.
Yep.
So 0.5 meter is about here, so we're gonna connect the sensor right here, and we're gonna use these jumbo zip ties because I would like for the position of the sensor to remain the same for the entire duration that it's down there. So apparently these can be the only basically downfalls of this system. Sometimes you need to replace these sensors. From what I've heard from other reviews, the pump is really good, but sometimes you might need a new sensor. So instead of having to unwrap all this tape next time, we'll just trim the zip ties. That's pretty good.
Looks good.
It's not going anywhere. So now we'll just
Make it look pretty.
make it look pretty. Okay, so next up we've got another 40 meters of wire to stretch down the line.
That's going to be my job.
Right, so we've got the sensor on like so, and I cannot be trusted with not tangling cables, so once again Sarah's got another 40 meters to take care of.
On the job. It's going quite smoothly so far.
Nice, it's because I didn't touch that one much. We're almost there.
Almost.
So, next up, stainless steel rope is going on, and we've got a little grab on there, and the way these work is the wire sits in this groove here like so, and then this part comes in, clamps it in there, and a little nut is screwed on to tighten everything. And now I bought 3 because I thought, I don't know, maybe I'll break one, but now that I'm thinking about it, this pump is going to be more than 30 meters down underground. I'm going to put both of them on because I really don't want this
Just in
thing
case.
failing. Yes, so we want to have this connection nice and strong. But in terms of threading it through the pump, if you can just put the camera here, so you've got these 2 eyelets here, so it comes in, wraps around the other side and comes out. It's very simple, and that's just so the pump hangs straight. If I only attached it to one of these, the pump would hang on a slant. Not that that would matter too much, but that's the finished product of the stainless steel rope. Oh, we're gonna record doing it. This is so finicky. And it's got the smallest little nuts.
Little baby nuts.
And at times like these, little tools like a socket set, the small sockets is really good. Makes life a lot easier.
Now that's definitely not coming off.
Yeah, we're gonna make these nice and tight, and yeah, that's what it looks like basically.
Now, time for me to stretch that for 40 meters.
Just be mindful, as soon as you take the tape off this, it wants to unroll itself. Along the way, we've found some innovation. The stick. Back to our roots there. Okay, so now has come the time to reinforce or wrap everything with this tape. And what we're going to do is we're going to have the cable, the stainless steel cable, we're going to have that tighter than the wires because we don't want the weight of this whole assembly to put any of the load on the wires. So we're going to stretch the cable nice and tight, and the wires are going to stay not as tight basically. And because we're putting this 36 meters down, we're going to need to do this activity 36 times. So this is a pretty easy way to do it if you've got two people. The old back was getting a bit sore, bending over tens of times and staying in that position. Good. Alright, so we've got the bore cap assembly here. Very exciting. This is like the last thing that we've got to assemble. So this goes on the poly pipe. There's a reducing nipple there, and it screws into the bore cap like so. It's going to sit like that. Water will come up the pipe and squirt me in the face. So it's pretty boring stuff. We're just going to wrap some tape around this and assemble it all. So we'll see you when it's done. Okay, welcome back guys. We've got our reducing nipples wrapped up in tape. I have no idea who names these fittings, but here we are. Very exciting. Got the bore cap. It's ready to go on. All we need to do now is connect these end connectors to the poly pipe and also to screw it in like so. Whoop. How's that?
Awesome.
Okay. Okay, let's tighten that up.
And we're almost ready to drop it down the hole.
Pretty good.
Awesome.
Okay, last part is tying on this stainless steel rope. So it's going to go through the little hole here. It's going to go through the little hole here.
And go through these.
Go through the loop.
Yep.
And it's going to basically hang in there like that.
With one of these that we used earlier. Awesome. Goes through that hole, out the top, through this little loop and back through.
Something like that.
And then you need this one. Now once Alex gets those tightened up, we're good to drop this in the hole, right?
Yeah.
Then we're going to connect the wires back up to the charge controller.
Oh, it's like the control box.
Then we're good to go. Testing tomorrow when the sun's back out because the storm is rolling in.
Alrighty, it's now finally the moment to drop this pump down the bore. maybe we will all hear a plonk once it hits the water. We hear water. It doesn't want to go down. It's floating back up.
What do we do?
I don't know. We're going to have to leave a weight on top of it. We're going to have to tie it down before it slowly seeps through the pump.
Have to put a luna on top. No.
Let's see, is it going to pop up?
Yeah.
Just show that. It's popping up on its own.
I don't want you to come out.
Alrighty, so it's stopped pushing itself up now
Magic.
because the line is filled with water. So now we've got these wires here. We're going to put some conduit on them, and then they're going to connect to the charge controller or the control box. I always get confused. Anyway, so I think that's for tomorrow because it's past dinner time and it's been a hot day.
It has been a long day and a hot day.
Yeah. See you guys tomorrow. Right, so we're ready to wire everything up now. We've got a conduit going along the wires because you don't want the wires getting pinched in there that can damage them. So pass the camera over to you. Got the wires sticking out here, and just to show you, we've got numbers 1, 2 and 3. We've got numbers 1, 2 and 3 here, and they correspond to 1, 2 and 3 here. So it's not complicated at all connecting the pump. But for anybody wondering why is there 3 wires when pumps normally just have a positive and a negative, and this is because the third wire, the earth wire, is responsible for modulating the speed so that it starts slowly like we heard in the testing. Previously people would just disregard the earth wire, but nowadays you really need it to have that slow start to protect the pump. So these already come with the attachments like so. You basically just pop them under and tighten them.
Does look very easy.
So that's that basically. And this is a cable gland, so when you twist it, it tightens all the wires in there and prevents there from being a gap that insects can crawl in through and whatnot. And the last bit is these 2 little wires here. They're not polarity sensitive. This is for that sensor, the low level water sensor from the bore. If there's no water in the bore, these 2 little wires will tell the system to stop pumping, and they go to COM1 and WH. And by the way, we had to take this little bit off because that's the bypass. So if you don't want to use the sensor, you got to keep the bypass on. But now we've taken that off, and we're going to connect these up. And they don't have the fancy clips on them as well because, you know, they're basically too small to do that. And they go in much the same way as the others.
Awesome.
Okay, welcome back. Our control box all set up now. We've tidied the wiring a little bit since the last shot to make it a little bit nicer, and basically now's the moment that we've all been waiting for. We get to test the actual pump inside the bore. So without further ado, we've got our little switch here, and disregard this wiring, that's all going to change later when we expand the solar array. So basically we're going to turn the switch on and you'll see the lights running through the checks, and then we should have water coming out of that poly pipe. So let's go.
Exciting times.
Put it on 50% speed.
Uh-huh. Oh, pump on. Should I go over to the end of the poly pipe?
We hear the pump starting up.
I can hear it.
Once this MPPT light is flashing, it's working, but I think let's go on over to the pipe.
I can hear it. Can you hear it? Oh.
Water's coming.
Oh. Is it going to spray me in the face? face, no. Woohoo! Clear. The wheelbarrow is dirty, that's why it's dirty in the wheelbarrow.
Look at that!
Water. Oh my god, this is so exciting. This is fantastic. It's so cool as well. Big smile on your face.
Pretty cool.
Can you have a shower? How does it
Smells
taste?
interesting.
Oh, what does it smell like?
If you've ever been to like a place where you go to drink mineral water specifically, it's mineral water. So
It's got a bit dirty there for a minute.
yeah, like after drilling the bore, it's obviously going to have some sediment left over. So we're going to run this now for an hour or two to make sure that it's all cleaned out.
Yeah.
And then we're ready to get the little testing kit. So we'll show you guys lastly the little testing kit that we got to basically do an analysis on the bore and see, do we need a filter, can we drink it, what can we do with the water. So up next we'll show you that.
So yeah, the guy that drilled the bore told us to run it for 2 hours or so, just to empty it out with all of the gross stuff from the drilling.
Alright guys, final thoughts on these eBay solar panels. Yes, they work. Yes, they might even be from the same factory as the better solar panels, but when it comes to buying from generic brands on eBay with really nice marketing, my recommendation is just don't do it. Because I said earlier in the video that a lot of the time sellers will falsely advertise the power rating of these solar panels. And then I was saying that I was glad I found a seller that didn't do that. They honestly advertised the size versus the power capacity and whatnot. But at the end of the day, we received solar panels that were falsely advertised, basically. They were meant to be 1.5 meters long. They're only 1 meter long. But the label on the back says that they're rated for more power than the bigger panels that we were supposed to receive. I did a lot of research. I tried to get us the best product at the best price, but at the end of the day, we got hoodwinked again from eBay. So my honest recommendation is, it's so much of a headache to try and resolve these issues after the fact. Now we've got to wait like 2 weeks for 2 more panels to be shipped, and we've got to rewire everything to be series parallel and whatnot. So even though they work, even though they look nice, something that I would recommend instead is legitimate online stores for solar products. Like one that we've purchased from before is Energy Connections. And something that I didn't realize when we bought these panels is that for something like $20 more per panel, you can actually buy Victron solar panels. And when you buy from that website for the first time, you get a 15% discount. So that's all that I would say. Yes, these solar panels work, but they only have 1 year warranty. Whereas if you go to a website like Energy Connections and you get a Victron panel, for example, you pay a few dollars more, maybe 10% more, but you get 5 times the warranty.
And you get what you ordered.
You get exactly what you ordered. We've ordered from them before because the people working there, they're actual experts. Half of the things I've learned about solar came from calling that place and asking the guys random questions about how to install everything. Whereas when you buy from eBay, you might have a phone number there and you'll call it, but you'll get generic advice and people won't be able to troubleshoot as effectively with you. But other stores that have an actual real life presence, you know, the store in Victoria, you can actually walk in, you can talk to the people, you can see all the products if you're in Victoria. Or if you're in New South Wales like us, we still get them ordered from there. The prices are great and the technicians there are fantastic too. They've been really helpful over the years for us. So we tried out the eBay panels and final verdict is no go, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Alright guys, now on to the cost summary. We'll keep it nice and simple here so you can see the main components are on the screen, which ended up costing us just over $2,500, which is still a fair bit of money because once again, installing a bore well is not a cheap exercise. But mind you, when we asked the local irrigation stores to provide a price for a kit that included everything that you saw installed today, they quoted us a price of about $10,000, which by the way is the same across the board for these kinds of things from numerous stores. So by taking this project on ourselves, we essentially saved ourselves $7,500 and did it at a quarter of the cost had we paid the pros to do it for us. And of course, we aren't perfect. This isn't an official tutorial. It's just a case study on what's worked for us, and we're just doing our best because our finances are limited and we still want to make things happen out here. So cheers to anyone who stuck around for this long. We'll see you in the next couple of videos about lab testing the water from the bore to see if it's drinkable, and also installing 2 massive concrete water tanks on our mound. Peace out.